I've never tried to do anything with this podcast other than just talk to people and have interesting conversations.
The world's most listened to podcaster apologized and defended himself following a growing protest against the popular streaming service. The Joe Rogan Experience made its debut on Spotify in 2020. Prominent artists are now pulling their music from the platform, saying Rogan is using it to spread misinformation about COVID. Queen City News Chief Business Correspondent Taylor Young joins us now. And Taylor, because of all of this tremendous amount of pushback, Spotify is now changing its policies.
Yeah, that's right, Brian. Spotify will soon have content advisory warnings on any podcast discussing the coronavirus. Now, what kind of impacts do these modifications have? Well, a researcher investigating social movements shares her insight.
I think there's a lot of people that have a distorted perception of what I do.
Joe Rogan addressing growing protests facing Spotify on his Instagram.
The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation.
Last week, Neil Young demanded his music be pulled from the site following episodes of Rogan discussing the COVID vaccine with guests. Spotify agreed to remove his music, and since then, 2 other artists, including Joni Mitchell, have joined him.
I'm very sorry that they feel that way. I most certainly don't want that.
In response, Spotify says it will soon add content advisory warnings to any episode that includes discussion around COVID.
On social media platforms, the whole goal is to get visibility. So you are trying to get it to as many people as possible. And if that is your goal, then accuracy is not your driving factor.
Dr. Sarah Levins has spent years researching the role of emotion in misinformation on social media. She says false information tends to spread a lot quicker online, and sites like Spotify are trying to figure out how to tame it. So far, adding an advisory tab has been the solution, but Levins says users can become too reliant on them.
If they don't have that tag, then they are perceived as more credible. And so the challenge is, how do we tag all of the misinformation content? And that is the huge issue across all of the platforms.
She says some of the responsibility falls on consumers to do their own research, while content creators like Joe Rogan say he too will try harder to offer more balanced input.
If there's anything that I've done that I could do better is have more experts with differing opinions right after I have the controversial ones.
Now, in its statement, Spotify says those advisory warnings will offer listeners a link to science-driven data. Now, researchers say it's likely policies across all of social media platforms will continue to be tweaked.